Sobriety Essays number 42. Just a tough moment in sobriety. The day I got sober was the day that changed my life. I did not care about the wife anymore, for I had killed the love and trust of a 20-year marriage. I did not care about the material things, for I knew the wife would take all that I had. I did not care about the job anymore, for eventually my drinking behavior would cost me that job. At that moment, all I knew was if I continued to drink the way I drank, I would die. Not die quickly, just slowly sinking into the vast loneliness that only a drunk knows. I just knew that if I took one more drink, I would never be able to stop. So, by the grace of God, the fellowship of Alcoholics Anonymous, and a little effort on my part, I got sober. It was suggested that I get a sponsor and go to 90 meetings in 90 days. So I got a sponsor, and I was just dumb enough to believe that when I was told to go to 90 meetings in 90 days, it meant one meeting each day for 90 days. I did not realize that a person could go to 3 meetings a day for 30 days and be done with it. I have watched several people do exactly that and get so burned out on going to meetings they went out and got drunk. There is a saying in AA that says God will never give us more than we can handle. So God removed that overpowering obsession to drink very early in my sobriety. I believe He did this because I had some serious living problems to deal with. Just because I was getting sober didn't mean that marriage was getting any better. My marriage was so bad that I would rather be in a meeting of Alcoholics Anonymous than at home with her. So I continued to go to a meeting every day and sometimes 2 meetings on Sunday for the first year, and I didn't drink between meetings. My wife would go to the Saturday night speaker meeting with me, and she was learning more and more about the disease of alcoholism. But there was still a lot of anger and resentment still standing between us. I knew that the marriage was over with, and I lived in fear of the day she would serve me with the divorce papers that I knew I deserved. Because of something my sponsor told me, I started to make changes in me. He said, Chuck, contribute to that marriage to the best of your ability so that if it should end, you can walk away with the least amount of guilt and the least amount of resentment. Guilt and resentment are the 2 things that will get you drunk. The key word was contribute. I slowly started to take responsibility around the house. Mainly, I started to pick up after myself. I started to help in keeping the house and yard in order. The marriage wasn't getting any better, and I knew it wouldn't, but I was doing these things because I wanted to stay sober. At 9 months, I had what I like to call a spiritual awakening. A psychologist might call this an attitude adjustment. Some people might call it a personality change. I was driving home from a Wednesday night beginners meeting about 9:30 at night when I had a thought pass through me that I still have today. The thought was, tomorrow is none of my business. That tomorrow belongs to God. Tomorrow is His business, not mine. I gave my tomorrows to God, and there was a tremendous relief and freedom from worry. I still have that attitude most of the time. 2 weeks later, coming home from that same Wednesday night meeting, I had a second thought go through my mind that I still have today. That thought was that my marriage was going to work or it wasn't going to work, and it was God's business, not mine. I simply turned that marriage over to the care of God. I literally quit worrying about the divorce papers I knew I deserved. There was a lot of peace in mind by turning over to God things that I had no control over anyway. I had started to make friends in AA and do social things with them besides going to meetings. I would invite my wife to go with me, but with the exception of the Saturday night speaker meeting, her answer was usually no. She would say, "Oh, you don't really want me around when you're with your AA buddies." I would continue to ask, and she would continue to say no. So I would leave her at home. I was not about to sit around the house with her and be miserable. At about 11 and a half months sober, I went with some friends to visit a lady I got sober with that lived in a town about 200 miles away. Four of us went for the weekend, of which was my daughter. My daughter joined AA at the age of 18. She did so on her own. I still have 57 days more sobriety than her, of which I will not let her forget. On returning home, my wife met me at the door and I knew she was angry. It seemed to me that she was tired of being left home alone. We got into a serious argument. That was when she let me have it. She stated that while I was gone, she had got into my briefcase and made a copy of my drunk-a-log for our upcoming divorce. I had started to attempt to write a book on my recovery and describe some of my drunken activities. It really wasn't the fourth step, but it was close. She went on to state that she had destroyed all of her wedding pictures, and she had. And then she told me that she had an affair in our early marriage and she didn't know whether my daughter was my daughter. What to do? In the big book of Alcoholics Anonymous, there is a line that says we will intuitively know how to handle situations that used to baffle us. I knew what my wife was trying to do. She was trying to destroy me verbally. She was trying to attack my ego. Because I knew what she was trying to do, I did not get hurt. I spent all of about 3 seconds dealing with the possibility my daughter might not be my daughter. I came to the conclusion that even if it was possible to prove that I did not create this daughter, she was still my daughter. I had spent 18 years loving and caring for this young California girl, and that's what a real father does. I also knew that I would sink into a depression as a result of what my wife had laid on me. What to do? I've been around AA long enough to know that a problem share is half a problem. I got in my car and took me to an AA meeting. That meeting I went to was a normal Sunday night meeting that I had been going to. I showed up in the parking lot at 4:30 in the afternoon. The meeting didn't start until 7 p.m. I sat in the car and periodically I would walk across the street to a mini market and get a cup of coffee. Then I would sit in the car and sip my coffee. The only relief from pain that I knew that worked was to go to a meeting and share. I was desperately trying to take the power out of the situation by sharing my pain in a meeting. I shared in that meeting exactly what I had written. I was trying to reduce the amount of pain that I knew I was going to go through. The next day I went to a noontime meeting that we had at work and I shared again. I went to my normal Monday night meeting and I shared again, just trying to take the power out of the problem. I had an interesting experience that night that I still hang on to. When after the meeting was over, I walked to my sponsor and I put my head on his shoulder and started to cry. Jack, my sponsor said, "Chuck, what exactly is it that's hurting you? Is it what she said?" I said, "No, it is not what she said that is hurting me. It is the overwhelming guilt of all the pain that I caused my family in my drinking days." I continued, "I don't know, for I had given that guilt to God to carry." Jack responded, "Chuck, all you did is take the guilt back. I did not know you could give something to God and then take it back." I had a new thought go through my mind, and that scared me. If I took the guilt back from God, could I take my drinking problem back? I had given God my drinking problem to carry. The truth is, yes, I could take my drinking problem back. I went to 2 meetings on Tuesday and 2 meetings on Wednesday, each time reducing the pain. From Sunday to Wednesday, I found out how to live one day at a time. I learned how to live 1 hour at a time. I learned to do whatever was in front of me at the moment. I would sit at my desk and look at my watch and say, "I will do this job for 1 hour and then I will make another decision." At the end of an hour, I would do it again. I learned to live 1 hour at a time. On Thursday, I woke up and that marriage changed 180 degrees. I mean, I went to bed Wednesday night and it wasn't working. I got up Thursday morning and it was working. The anger was gone. The resentment was gone. It was like God had waved a hand over us and changed his pose. That was 12 years ago. On October the 10th, 1989, we celebrated 25 years of marriage. We were living miracles of that day. We went out and bought new wedding rings. This is something she wanted to do. We renewed our wedding vows on a cruise ship in the Caribbean on the 6th with 6 AA couples looking on. On that very day, I celebrated 2,000 days without a drink. On October the 10th, 1996, just a few weeks ago, as I write this experience, we celebrated 32 years of marriage. Today, we are just a couple of God's kids having fun. I like to say for the last 12 years, my wife and I have never discussed divorce, but on occasion we still discuss homicide. Touch of humor there. As a result of this experience, I have come to the conclusion about relationships. I can contribute to a relationship, but I cannot make it work and I can't fix it. I can turn the relationship over to the care of God, and the outcome is of His design. I believe today that my wife is my wife, my friend, my lover. She is not my higher power, and she is not my mother. I firmly believe that I could, for whatever reason, still have more marriages left in me. What I have serious, what I don't have is another recovery in me. One of the miracles I have today is as I continue to walk through life's experiences, I do not ever have to walk through them alone. I'll leave you with this thought. My sponsor said to me this many times. I could lose the wife. I could lose the material things. I could lose the job. But if I trust in God and don't drink, I have a chance of getting it all back. Thanks for listening. On the day that I celebrated 32 years of sobriety, April 19th, 2016, God took her home, ending a 51-year marriage.